What is going on, folks? My name is Spice. This is Spice Can't Fish, and today I'm filming a video that I've been kind of putting off for probably like 3 or 4 months at this point. If you guys have seen the title and thumbnail, you already know what's going on, but today I'm going to be giving you guys my full unbiased review of Mystery Tackle Box. Now, over the past winter, I did a whole bunch of Mystery Tackle Box unboxings. I decided to give it another shot. In the past, I haven't been a huge fan of Mystery Tackle Box. I feel like a lot of their boxes, especially the bigger ones, are just kind of filled with a bunch of junk throwaway baits. And most of the time, you're just kind of wasting your money. You're getting a bunch of stuff that you're not really going to use and just a bunch of stuff that's not really worth it. But I got one as a Christmas present this past year, opened it up, and to my surprise, I was actually pretty impressed with the box, so I figured we'd give it another shot. So I went over to my local Dick's Sporting Goods and bought one of every Mystery Tackle Box that they had in there, from the smallest one all the way up to the biggest. And we did an unboxing on every single one of those boxes. If you guys want to see all those videos, I'll leave them linked down below for you guys. But in today's video, we're actually going to be rating the company as a whole. I'm going to be going through each of the boxes that we got. I'm going to go through every single bait that we got, every single color that we got. We're going to go over the price of each of the baits in the box to see if, first of all, the baits in the box are actually worth the price tag of each given box. And then we're also going to be talking about what I honestly think of each of the baits. Again, like I said, in the past, I've noticed that a lot of these Mystery Tackle Boxes come with some throwaway baits, so they might not be like great colors or just like random baits that are kind of expensive but are just kind of pieces of garbage. A good example of this would be like one of the Lunker Hunt frogs, or like any of their weird spiders or any of the weird topwaters like that. A lot of those don't really work super well, but they are kind of expensive, so I feel like Mystery Tackle Box had a tendency in the past to throw those into the boxes. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to rate these Mystery Tackle Boxes as unbiasedly as possible while being both qualitative and quantitative. And throughout the video, I hope to give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions on each of the baits, like I said, each of the boxes, as well as Mystery Tackle Box as a whole brand, just to let you guys know, in my opinion, whether it's worth your money or not. But yeah, like I said, I've been kind of putting off this video for a hot minute because it's going to be kind of a pain for me, especially in the editing process. But yeah, I said I was going to do one of these videos, so I think it's finally just time for me to bite the bullet and get into it. So without further ado, we're going to get into my unbiased thoughts and opinions on Mystery Tackle Box. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be going through every single bait in every single one of the boxes that I picked up. As you guys know, there are a ton of different like variants of the Mystery Tackle Box. They don't just have like one saltwater box and one freshwater box that's $25. What's inside the boxes, at least in terms of like the actual baits that come in it, tend to be pretty random. They do seem like they pick from like a few different sets of baits, but generally speaking, most of your boxes are going to have like a random assortment of baits in them. And yeah, I've got a nice full stack of notes right here, so we are going to go through each of the boxes, like I said, and talk about each of the baits in the box. So we're going to start off with the normal MTB box. This is just the regular $25 Mystery Tackle Box. This one that I got came with 5 baits in it. I believe this one, they say, comes with 5 to 6 baits, averaging about $30 in value. In my $25 box, we got a couple of Guggen baits. We got the Guggen Banger in the Sexy Shed color, which runs you $7.99. We also got the Guggen Baits Zinger, which is their spinner bait, which is about a $6.50 bait. We got that in the bluegill color. We got the Weston Shad Tea Slim in like a bait fish color, which is a little soft plastic swim bait. Those things are pretty expensive. They'll run you $5.99 per pack. Got the pack of the Z-Man Goats, which is very similar to like the Strike King Menace. It's just kind of like a twin tail grub style trailer. That was in the watermelon red color for $4.99 a pack. And then we got a 2-pack of the Spear Point EWG hooks, which will probably run you a couple of dollars there. Obviously, when you go out and buy those EWG hooks, they don't come in a 2-pack. They'll usually come in like a 5-pack or something like that, but they're usually about $1 a hook. Overall, in this first box, I think they did a pretty solid job. You got a nice selection of a whole bunch of different things. You got a couple of different soft plastics. You got a couple of different hard baits. You got some terminal tackle. Again, this is the $25 box, so they're kind of limited on how many baits they could give you, but you still got 5 baits, and all 5 of the baits or terminal tackle that you got in here are pretty applicable. Out of all the baits in the box, I think the most applicable one is going to be that Z-Man Goat. That watermelon red color is great for any sort of water clarity, but especially those clear waters. And those goats can be used for pretty much anything. You can swim them, you can flip and pitch them, you can use them as chatterbait or swim jig trailers, or even just a normal jig trailer. You can use them on the back of a buzzbait. Again, they're the goat, they're the greatest of all time is what that means. And so, as you would imagine with the goat, you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. They're pretty applicable across the board, from top water to all the way down at the bottom and everything in between. And then the least applicable thing in this box, I think, is going to be those Spear Point EWG hooks. Not that they're not good hooks, I just haven't used them, and they're kind of a weird design to them. They've got kind of a weird bend to them, so they could potentially be pretty good, but again, I've just never used them before, and they look a little odd to me. Not saying they won't work, but I just personally have a ton of confidence in a few other hooks, so I just probably won't find myself using that all too often. But yeah, in terms of all the baits in here, like I said, you got a nice little selection. You got stuff for fishing around wood, you got stuff for fishing around grass, you got stuff for fishing heavy cover, you got stuff for fishing a little bit lighter cover. You got pretty much all your bases covered in terms of baits in this box. And again, for 25 bucks, they are a little bit limited for what they can give you. But I think for a $30 price point, they did a great job with this box. Honestly, I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 in terms of rating. I wouldn't have minded to see some sort of like weight of some sort in terms of the terminal tackle, but other than that, they pretty much knocked out of the park with this thing, like I said. Alrighty, up next, we're going to be talking about the Mystery Tackle Box Pro. This is their next step up. It's the $36.99 box. I believe they advertise that this is going to have about $45 or $50 worth of stuff in it, but in our box, we got the Jenko Rip Knocker, which is like a little lipless crankbait. That's in the Gag On It green color, which is kind of like a natural shad color. That bait will run you about $9.99. We also got the Arc CT 3-5, which is like a little square bill. That was in the green gill color, which is an $8.99 bait. We again got one of the Guggen Zingers in that bluegill color, so again, that's another $6.50 bait. We also got the 10,000 Fish Yodo worms, which is like a little fluke or worm style bait. You can fish those things pretty much however you want. Those things were in the green pumpkin pearl color, which is about a $5.69 bait. Kind of a weird price on those ones, but whatever. Then we got the Excite Bait Shad Nasty in the watermelon candy color. That's essentially just kind of like a Kai-Tech style swim bait. Nothing super special about those Excite baits. They look pretty solid though. Those will run you about $5.99 for a pack. Then we got the Lake Fork Trophy Lures Hyper Stick, which is their Senko style bait. That's in the green pumpkin golden purple flake color, so again, a super natural, super good looking color. And that was a $5.99 pack of baits as well. And then we have the Stickies EWG, which is just a $2 pack of hooks. This second box, again, absolutely knocking it out of the park. We got another one of those Guggen Zingers, but I'm trying to rate these boxes individually, so we're not going to count that against the box. And honestly, just a great selection of baits. Again, we got a bunch of stuff from fast-moving baits, slow-moving baits, stuff to fish heavy cover, stuff to fish light cover. We got a spinner bait, as well as some trailers for the spinner bait and those Yodo worms. Got a couple of weightless presentations in the Hyper Stick, as well as the Yodo worms, some faster-moving stuff, as well as some slower moving stuff. The one thing that we didn't get in this box that I would have liked to see was some sort of a bottom moving bait, some sort of a craw or a creature or something like that. But other than that, this box was absolutely fantastic. I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things in this box, so pretty solid little selection right there. A couple of higher priced items as well. That Rip Knocker again is about a $10 lipless crankbait, and those things are friggin' sweet. My favorite thing out of this box is probably either going to be that Rip Knocker or those LFT Hyper Sticks. Both of those baits I've caught a ton of fish on. They're both absolutely fantastic. I'm leaning towards the Rip Knocker just because that name, Gag On It Green, is hilarious to me. The thing that I'm least excited to get, I guess, is that Guggen Zinger, but that's just because we got one of them in the last box. But again, I'm not going to count that against this box. If I was just to buy this one box, I would have been super happy with the selection that I got. Again, I wouldn't have minded something like those Z-Man goats or another like creature or cross style bait to work along the bottom in this box, but other than that, absolutely knocked it out of the park. Alrighty, next up is the Mystery Tackle Box Elite. This is their $49.99 box. I believe they say this one has about $65 worth of baits in it. And this was a pretty stacked box as well. I'm not gonna lie, this might have been my favorite box. So we started off with the Mike Buka Baby Bull Shad. That was in the Threadfin Shad color. Just a little slow sinking multi-jointed swim bait for $15. Or I guess $14.99, but a super lifelike, super natural looking threadfin shad imitator. I've used the Baby Bull Gill and caught a lot of fish on it. Haven't used the Baby Bull Shad yet, but I'm super excited to finally get my hands on one. We also got one of the 10,000 Fish Headhunters in the licensed gill color. That's a little $9.99 swim bait with a hidden hook in it. It's very similar to like the Mega Bass Dark Sleeper or the Sleeper Gill, but this one's got like a rotating hook that like spins out of the bait a little bit. So really interesting design there. We got ourselves another one of the Guggen Bangers in that chartreuse black color. Again, that's a $7.99 crankbait. We also got one of the Biospawn Rattlebots in the Magma Crawl color, which is an $8.50 lipless. That is a super sweet little bait. I caught a few fish on that in the beginning of the year. We also got one of the Carl's Amazing Baits spinner baits in the chartreuse and white color. It's a pretty solid spinner bait and pretty middle of the road in terms of price for $5.99. Then we got one of the Biospawn Vile Bugs in the Okeechobee Crawl color for $5.69, which is an absolutely fantastic flipping and pitching bait. We also got a pack of the Z-Man Finesse Worms in the peanut butter and jelly color, which is a $3.99 bait. Those things will last you forever. Again, it's made out of that Z-Man stuff, so it lasts a super long time. And for a finesse worm, that'll be fantastic on like a shaky head, as that Z-Man stuff also floats, so it should be absolutely fantastic. Again, like I said, on a shaky head or like a Texas rig or something like that. We got another pack of the LFT Hyper Sticks. Again, green pumpkin, gold, and purple. $5.99 for those. Absolutely fantastic little Senko style bait. And then we got another pack of the Stickies EWG hooks. So again, like I said, this might be my favorite box out of all of them. Every single bait in this box is fantastic. Most of the colors are pretty sweet as well. And they pretty much covered all the bases in terms of baits in this one. We got a couple of swim baits, we got a couple of crank baits, we got a spinner bait, a few soft plastics. The one thing they didn't give us in this box was actually some sort of a top water. But again, like I said, this is probably my favorite box out of all the ones that we unboxed. I think you got a great selection of baits in here. And I think that $49.99 one is probably going to be your best bang for the buck. Alrighty, the second to last box that we unboxed and reviewed was the MTB Motherload. This was the $59.99 one. I believe this one's marketed to have about $75 worth of baits in it. And this is where I think the boxes started to fall off a little bit, but we're going to go through this one, starting off with the Headbanger Spitfire in the holographic silver color, and that was a $20 top water bait. It's a really interesting style bait. It's like a multi-jointed wake bait. Looks really interesting. I'm probably going to have to do a video on it at some point in the future. But yeah, one of the weirder, more interesting top water baits I've ever seen. Never really heard anything all too much about it. I think people throw them a lot in Australia for a lot of those species over there. I've seen a couple of guys catch some absolute giant Murray cod on those things, so I'm excited to see what the largemouth do to it. But anyway, moving on, we got the Duo Realis Vibration Nitro in the smoky bone color. This is, again, another lipless crankbait and a pretty expensive one at $13.99. Then we got the Weston Bass Bite, which is like a little square bill in the chartreuse blue craw color. That's a $12 square bill. We also got another crankbait, the Castaic Loco 8, which is a 6 to 8 foot diving crankbait. That was in the Ghost Sexy Shad color. We got yet another Guggen Zinger, this time in the white color. This is, again, a $6.50 spinnerbait. We also got the Catch Outdoors Zero Gravity jig in the natural gill color, which is a really interesting jig. This is definitely going to have its own dedicated video at some point or another, but essentially it's a jig that doesn't have very much weight to it. It's a super slow falling jig. That's the idea, at least, is it's supposed to fall very, very slowly and super naturally into cover. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing a video on that at some point once I find a good spot to do that at, but that's a really interesting bait right there. That runs you about $5.99. Then we got a Thunderhawk Buzz Toad, which I have actually done a video on in the past. That is in the olive head watermelon color. It's a $6.99 build your own buzzbait. It essentially comes in 3 pieces. There's a little buzzbait blade with a weight on it, and then there's a separate hook that I guess you can change out if you want to swap to a bigger or smaller hook. And then it also comes with its own soft plastic to go on the back of it, but that soft plastic actually tends to get ripped up pretty easily. I did a video on this in the past. If you guys want to see that video, I'll leave it linked down below for you guys to go check out, but pretty interesting bait right there. We got a pack of the Harmony EWG hooks again for $2. We also got a pack of the Carl's Amazing Baits Flicker Worm. That's their little wacky rig worm or their finesse rig worm. We got that in the June bug color. Those will run you about $4. We got yet another pack of those LFT Hyper Sticks in the green pumpkin, gold, and purple flake color. Again, that was $5.99 for those. And then last but not least, we got some of the Lucky John Macora shad tails, which are a little swim bait in the purple back shad color. Those will run you about $4.99. So we got a ton of baits in this box, but again, this is, I think, where the boxes start to fall off, start to kind of lose their quality a little bit. A lot of the baits in this box I think are kind of those throwaway baits. That Headbanger Spitfire is kind of interesting, so I guess that one can get a pass. That Weston Bass Bite is in a super weird color, but it's a $12 crankbait, so again, I think that's just something that they threw in. That Buzz Toad, again, is kind of a cheap, kind of crappy bait, but again, they'll run you $7, so again, that's one of those things that they'll just kind of throw in there. And that Carl's Flicker Worm, again, I'm sure cost them like 50 cents to make, but they can charge $4 for it, and that'll beef up the overall price of the box a little bit, so they'll throw some of those in for you. They're not bad worms. I've actually caught a bunch of fish on those flicker worms in the past, but there's no reason why they should be throwing those in a box. It's just something to fluff it up a little bit, add a little bit more value to the overall box without actually costing them a lot of money. A couple of baits that I'm actually really excited to try out in this one are that Duo Realis Vibration Nitro. That's that little lipless crankbait. That's a pretty sweet little bait right there. I'm also really interested in that Catch Outdoors Zero Gravity jig. I feel like that's going to be kind of interesting. And if it works, I could see that playing in some super pressured waters. A couple of baits that I wish that they would replace with something else would be the Weston Bass Bite. Again, looks like a pretty solid crankbait. It's just in like a really weird color, that chartreuse blue craw color. It's kind of like a weird mix between like a sexy shad and a craw style pattern. If you're throwing that bait kind of quick, just kind of working it along the bottom as you normally do a square bill, and you're fishing it in kind of dirty water, which is probably where you would throw that kind of style color pattern anyway, then I don't think it'll really matter all too much, just because again, the water's going to be kind of dirty. It's not really like these fish are going to get a good look at the bait between it going by their face so fast and the water clarity just not being great. So with it going by their head at that kind of speed, I doubt it looks like anything besides just like a normal bait fish, but just for me, in terms of like the actual color pattern, it is a little bit weird. And then of course that Thunderhawk Buzz Toad, I'm not a huge fan of that bait. Again, if you want to see my full thoughts and impressions, I'll leave that video linked down below for you guys, but I honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's kind of an interesting idea. It doesn't really work for me. I'm not really a buzzbait person in general. When I do throw a buzzbait, I want one that works super, super well. This one had a weird habit of like rolling on it and the blade kind of getting caught up. Again, full video on that thing, linked down below for you guys, but yeah, long story short, I wish that they didn't include that one in the box. And I'm also just now realizing that I never talked about baits that I liked and didn't like out of that last one, the MTB Elite. So real quick, the bait that I'm most excited to get out of this thing is the Baby Bull Shad in that threadfin shad color. I think that thing's going to be absolutely sick. Again, I also love that Rattlebot. I want to pick up a few of those in a few different colors as well. But that Magma Craw Rattlebot, again, caught me some pretty decent fish this early spring. And the bait that I am least excited about is obviously that Guggen Banger. I just don't really throw a lot of chartreuse and blackback square bills. I don't really throw a lot of square bills in general, to be perfectly honest, so it's just not a bait that I throw all too often. But not to say it's not going to work, or not to say that I'm not going to throw it and catch fish with it in the future. Just not something that I throw a whole ton. And yeah, last but not least, we're going to talk about the MTB Juggernaut box. Before we get into that though, I just want to mention real quick, there is actually one box in between the MTB Motherload and the MTB Juggernaut. I believe it's like a $79 box or so. The Juggernaut will run you $99.99, so even $100 on that one. But I never realized that there was that other box up until semi-recently, so I'm not going to go out, buy one of those boxes and do an unboxing on it just so I can include it into this video. I'm just going to assume it's probably somewhere in between the Motherload and the Juggernaut box, both in terms of the amount of baits as well as the quality of baits. Again, like I said, after that Motherload box, or I guess after that Elite box, they start to fall off a little bit, and you'll see what I'm talking about once we get into the Juggernaut box as well. But anyway, in this Juggernaut box, we got a ton of baits, so we're going to run through them super quick, starting off with that Headbanger Spitfire, again in that holographic silver color, that $20 bait. Got some of the Stickies EWG hooks for $2. Got one of the Guggen clickbaits in the Fire Crawl color, which will run you $8.99. Got one of the Guggen Junior Contenders, which is their multi-jointed swim bait in the Bluegill color. That's another $20 bait. Got another one of those Rattlebots in the Magma Crawl color, again $8.50. We also got one of the Lunker Hunt Impact Jolt 2.5Fs, which is a flat-sided square bill. That comes in the silver side color. It'll run you $7.50. We got one of the Lucky Craft CB001s, which is a $14 bait. It's in the natural brim color. It's kind of like a wake and crank style bait. Got one of the 10,000 Fish Takata Frogs, which is one of their new frogs, for $10.99. Also got one of the 10,000 Fish Headhunters in the License to Gill color again. And then those Headhunters again are $9.99. We got a pack of the Savage Gear 3D bait fishes in the Pearl color, which is an $8.99 pack of baits. Got some of the Weston Shad Tea Slims, which are a $5.99 pack of bait fish swim baits, which we had mentioned previously. Then we got the Headbanger Lures Banger Lizard in the Watermelon Red Flake color, $5.99 for that pack. Got one of the Netbait Daggers, which is one of their flippin' baits in the Junebug color, which is a $4.79 pack of baits. Then we got some of the Excite Raptor Tail Craws in the Green Pumpkin color, $5.29 for those baits. And the X-Zone Adrenaline Craw wrapping it up for $4.99 in the Green Pumpkin and Blue Flake color. Okay, I ran through those super fast. I'm just going to kind of recap over them and kind of give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions. Spitfire, again, is kind of an interesting bait. We're going to have to do a separate video on that thing. Those Stickies hooks, pretty solid little hooks. I've used them in the past. I like them a whole lot. The Guggen Squad clickbait, again, I think is one of those throwaway baits, especially in that fire crawl color. They're not the worst plated jigs on the market. They're not one of my favorites though. I actually did a video on them like a couple of years ago, so I can leave that video linked down below for you guys if you want to see that as well. That was a super old video though. That was a couple of years ago, like I said, so that's probably going to be a pretty crappy video, just full advanced warning. The Contender is kind of an interesting bait. I actually bought one of those previously like a couple of years ago. Out of the box, the thing didn't even swim, so I'm hoping that we can maybe try this one out and hopefully it swims a little bit better than the last one. The Rattlebot, again, like I said, is sweet. That Lunker Hunt Impact Jolt, probably less so. I think a lot of the Lunker Hunt baits are kind of just trash. It looks good, but I'm pretty sure I tied it on and it doesn't swim straight, just like a lot of the Lunker Hunt stuff. So that's not altogether surprising. Honestly, like I said, a lot of those Lunker Hunt baits are pretty crappy. Definitely not worth $7.50. I feel like you probably couldn't even get people to buy those out of a bargain bin, if I'm being perfectly honest. They're not great baits. I've had better luck on the Bass Pro Shop style stuff with those crappy hooks and the mediocre paint jobs and all that stuff. Now the Lucky Craft CB001, on the other hand, while it's a little bit more expensive, looks a whole lot better and is going to act a whole lot better. Lucky Craft makes some of the best baits on the market, in my opinion. I love the Lucky Craft baits. Their square bill is one of my favorite square bills on the market. It's a silent square bill, which is something that you don't really find a whole lot of, but it's got killer paint jobs, got an absolutely fantastic action. I've caught the absolute crap out of fish on that thing in the past. And I'd imagine the CB001 is probably going to be more of the same. Like I said, it's more of a wake and crank style bait, so it'll stay a little bit closer to the surface, but that thing should be absolutely sick this coming summer. Another bait that I'm really excited to throw around this summer is the Takata Frog. I want to throw more frogs, and that Takata Frog actually looks like a pretty sweet one. It's in like a really interesting style color. It's like a black and red. A little bit of an expensive frog, but looks like it's made pretty well. I love the design on it, and if it catches fish as good as it looks, then it's probably going to be one of my favorite frogs coming up here. Again, we got another one of those 10,000 fish headhunters, which I think I may have actually skipped over that somehow, but we got another one of those licensed to kill headhunters. Again, kind of excited to throw those things around. I've got a couple of spots in mind actually that I want to throw those at pretty soon, so hopefully you guys will see a video on those things coming up kind of soon. The Savage Gear 3D bait fish and pearl are pretty cool. Again, they're just kind of like a bright white, just like a nice little paddle tail imitator, but they look pretty lifelike, should get bit pretty well. Those Shad Tees Slims, again, I've thrown them around a little bit, caught a couple of fish on them here and there. They're pretty cool little baits. Again, they're kind of expensive for those little tiny swim baits, but they are pretty sweet. That Headbanger Lures Banger Lizard, I'm actually really excited to throw around. It's a really interesting design in terms of baits. I've never really seen a creature or craw or lizard style bait similar to that before. That might have to have its own video on it at some point or another, but regardless, it looked really cool. The Netbait Dagger is a tried and true bait. I personally haven't thrown it all too much, but I've heard a lot of people catch a lot of good fish on it, so I'm excited to get my hands on another pack of them and give them another shot. I threw them around a little bit when I was just getting into bass fishing, and I think I snagged all of them. I might have caught a fish or two on them, but I don't really remember catching a whole lot on them. That's not to say the bait didn't work. That's just to say that I didn't know what I was doing. I was probably throwing them in all the wrong ways and all the wrong spots and all that stuff. So I'm excited to get another chance to actually throw them around now that I kind of know what I'm doing, and hopefully we'll be able to actually give them a shot and see what we can do with them. Those Excite-based Raptor Tail Crawls are pretty sweet. Again, they're just like a cross style bait, so you can throw them on a Texas rig or use them as a jig trailer, use them as some flipping baits or a chatterbait trailer or something like that as well. Just a standard green pumpkin color. I've used these a little bit here and there, and they seem like they're pretty solid baits. I've used a few of the Excite baits in the past, and they seem like they hold up pretty well, so definitely a pretty solid option in terms of baits there. And then last up is the X-Zone Baits Adrenaline Crawl, which is a bait from X-Zone that I have not got a chance to try yet. I've thrown a few of their baits here and there, and every single bait that I've thrown from them seems like they work super well, so I'm very excited to get these Adrenaline Crawls in the water a little bit. And that green pumpkin blue color is absolutely mouth-watering. I am super excited to get that one in the water. Looks like a great bait. Like I said, I've heard a lot of really good things about them, so I'm really stoked to get those things out and try them out a bit. But yeah, this box was kind of split 50-50 for me. I feel like half the baits in here I'm really excited about, half of them I'm really not excited about. You got stuff like the Lucky Craft CB001 and the Takata Frog, as well as stuff like that Banger Lizard that all looks really, really good. And some tried and true stuff like the Adrenaline Crawl and the Dagger. Again, stuff that I haven't really thrown around all too much, but I know a lot of people catch a lot of fish on. But it also has a lot of throwaway stuff in there. Like I said, it has that clickbait. It's got the Impact from Lunker Hunt. It's got the Junior Contender, that Spitfire, which we already got. Not to say that those baits don't catch fish. Again, like I said, I've caught fish on a few of these baits here and there, and I'm sure they all work in their own time and place. But a lot of these baits, like I said, are just kind of put in there to beef up the box. A lot of them are $10, $15, $20 for some of these baits that probably only cost them a couple of dollars to get and make. And a couple of them are in kind of weird colors. That Fire Crawl clickbait especially is a throwaway color for me. And the worst of the worst on here is honestly that Lunker Hunt Jolt, that little square bill. The thing is absolutely horrendous. Like I said, I threw it around. It doesn't swim straight at all. I don't know why Lunker Hunt even exists anymore. It's just not a good company. None of their stuff works super well. I don't know why they keep including them in the box. Probably because they can buy them for like 50 cents a bait because nobody wants to buy them because they're terrible. But yeah, out of the box, like I said, probably my favorite bait out of here is either going to be that Lucky Craft wake bait or that Takata Frog. I'm also really excited to throw around that Banger Lizard a little bit. And of course, my least favorite baits in the box are obviously that Lunker Hunt Square Bill. Also not super stoked about the clickbait or the Junior Contender, obviously. But yeah, now for my overall thoughts and opinions on Mystery Tackle Box as a whole. Like I said, when I bought these first couple of boxes, I was not super excited. I didn't think anything of it. I figured it was just going to be another waste of money like the last few Mystery Tackle Box experiences I've had have been. But again, especially with some of those lower priced, less expensive boxes, I was blown away. I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of them got really high scores, like I said. A lot of them were filled with some really good baits and honestly seemed like a good bang for your buck. Once you get above that $50 price point, again, like I said, they start to fall off. You start to get a little bit more filler baits in there as opposed to just stuff that you're actually going to want to and be able to use. You obviously get a lot more baits in those bigger boxes, and you do get a good few baits that actually are pretty solid in those boxes, but by and large, a lot of those baits are going to be like filler fluff baits that either Mystery Tackle Box can make really cheaply or they can get their hands on really cheaply, just to bump the overall value of any of those individual boxes up. Again, these boxes are trying to hit a specific value point, so they all have like $50 worth of baits for $35 or $150 worth of baits for $100 or something along those lines. And they have to hit those numbers at some point, but if they just fill them up with a ton of like actual good baits that may only cost $5, $6, $7, they're going to be throwing like 25, 30 baits into a box. And that's just not monetarily smart for them as a business. So they just can't really do that. And unfortunately, as a result, that just means a lot of those bigger boxes are just going to be filled with a lot of fluff. So if you guys want to get your hands on Mystery Tackle Box, again, I would suggest going with one of the $50 boxes. I think that's where your best bang for your buck is. If you don't have $50 or you don't want to spend $50, you just want a couple of baits, any of those smaller, less expensive boxes are also a fantastic option. Again, once you go over that $50 price point, I think they start to add a few more baits just to kind of fluff it up a little bit, and you start to lose your value a little bit. And that seems to be more and more true the higher and higher you go in terms of value for these boxes. Again, like I said, that $100 Juggernaut box, like half the baits in that box are pretty much throwaway baits for me. Like I'm not going to use them. I don't really feel like I need to use them or want to use them. Whereas if you look at a lot of those smaller boxes, I think maybe only one or two of the baits in each of the boxes are mediocre, but each of the baits in the boxes have their own place. You can use each of them and they're all really good options. But yeah, I really hope you guys got something out of this video. I really hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see some more content from me. But now comes the super fun part for me, which is going to be filming all the B-roll of all the baits for these boxes, then uploading it onto my computer and getting on the editing part. The editing is going to be a pain in the ass, I'm sure. I don't know how long I've been filming for. I'm sure it's at least 45 minutes at this point. So that's going to be a heck of a video just to edit that. But again, really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see some more content from me. If you guys have any of those specific baits that I've mentioned that you want me to do a video on, like I said, I've got a few baits in here that I want to do specific videos on. But if you have something in here that you want me to do a video on specifically, let me know down in the comments section. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for me, y'all. Check them and wreck them, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.